Yeah. Miami. South Beach, bringing the heat. Can y'all feel?
What is going on, baby?
Oh,
we
my
are
goodness.
back with Ball Talk. Another episode, another day in the NBA world, in the college basketball world. To all my people out there on IG Live, you're going to see my chunky self from this angle.
What lies?
Definitely go and ask questions if you're on IG Live. So far, no one has joined. But without that, forget the IG Live. To all the listeners that might be listening to this podcast episode, I want to welcome you back to another Ball Talk episode for a second week straight. Wow.
Third straight, man. Third week. Get it right. Third week straight.
3rd week straight. We'll lead Emily here.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
I told you all we needed to do was come up with a schedule, and we got this. I'm here. I'm present.
He's here. He's present. He doesn't have a computer, but he's making it work. He's using his phone. But we're going to make it work. So to the folks on IG Live, please ask questions. We're recording Ball Talk right now. For those listening in, just kind of give a backbone of what we're going to discuss. We're going to give our reactions to the NCAA bracket and what has transpired. Our looking forward, who we think is going to win the national title with the given Final Four. We're going to discuss the Lakers not making the playoffs and what it does to LeBron's legacy. And, of course, because I'm wearing this Miami Heat shirt, to everybody on YouTube that's going to watch, we have to do a little omen to our guy, Dwyane Wade. That'll be the finale of the episode. I see Keishan has joined on Instagram Live, so maybe he'll ask some questions for us. So let's jump right in, Waleed. Let me get your thoughts, bro. The NCAA tournament not turning out the way we kind of expected.
I mean, that's always the case, honestly. We all know that, since the NCAA tournament is a tournament that's one game done, one game win, we know what kind of tournament it is, and we know that, as we all know, there's never been a perfect bracket. There's never been someone that gets it right all the time, but we do know that you can make a case that at least we would get the Final Four right. And man, this Final Four is I don't know, but I didn't get any of these right except Texas Tech, I think.
You are right, bro. I didn't get anyone right except no one, actually. No, Michigan State. Michigan State. I got Michigan State right. I had Michigan State right. I had Duke losing to Michigan State in the Elite Eight. But I had everyone else wrong. Unfortunately, we kind of fell off the earth against a good Auburn team. I didn't have Auburn beating us, and I didn't have Kentucky making it either to the Elite Eight. I had Houston. So I had Tennessee beating Virginia. That didn't happen. No. And I had Gonzaga making it back, but this Texas Tech team is the real deal, man.
I'm not even going to lie. The only reason I had Texas Tech in that whole thing is because my dad did residency there. And so that's why, now I got to ride that wave all the way that hope they make it and win the whole thing. But they're going to have some tough competition.
I'll say this. Michigan State is the toughest battle that I think Texas Tech is going to face just because they're red hot. But that
100%.
Texas Tech defense is a real deal.
I forgot the dude's name, but there's a dude on Texas Tech. He's nice, man. And so is the point guard from Michigan State. He's nice too, but
whoa. Did you just say the point guard from Michigan State?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me, man?
Is he the point guard?
His name? You just referred to him as the point guard at Michigan State?
His name might be Winston. His name might be Winston. Maybe.
That's Winston, baby. Get it right. He's the real deal. Go Green. Go Green, baby, because they took down Zion, R.J. Barrett, and that trash team over 8 miles away from Chapel Hill.
Last time I checked, Auburn did good work against a so-called the University of National Champions, as I like to hear.
Championships? Who's talking? Oh, thank you.
No, last time they lost in the Sweet 16? Sweet 16?
All of that aside, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When you saw the Carolina game, what were your initial thoughts? And I see my boy Tony commenting on Instagram Live. He says, "Go Green because I need money." I'm all in, Tony. I got you, bro. We got other people in a big run. We got some other people in saying they had Texas Tech and even Auburn. I don't believe that. Siring saying Duke ain't shit. I agree with that 100%.
Of course you do, but neither is UNC.
Hey, look, this guy Prithvi is saying UNC sucks. NC State's not even in the NCAA tournament. They're in the NIT. Are you kidding me?
Listen, man, don't talk about NC State like that. No, listen, UNC, you guys can't bring up NC State when we're not even relevant right now in the conversation. When you guys are the one who are saying you guys were going to be national championships and fell off much quicker than everybody thought you were going to.
Look. I said this when we were filling out our brackets. It's March.
Yeah,
The safe pick is to go with North Carolina. The safe pick is to go with Duke. The safe pick is to go with Gonzaga. And the safe pick is to go with Virginia. And to be frank, the hottest team going into the tournament was North Carolina. But like March is, you can lose to anyone and everyone. And I have never seen a team shoot the way Auburn did the night they played us.
I think so. What was going through my head when I was watching that game was that now it was a combination of the fact that I don't think I've seen UNC so frazzled before because they're shooting. Because the thing is that I totally get it that Auburn shot lights out, but it's about those teams responding. UNC I thought would be one of those teams that could respond really well when it came to it. And honestly, they just really didn't. And that has to do with, I understand, people getting sick, people need to step up. But UNC was a very deep team, and that's why I thought they could get over it.
Look, I went to work today, and I told everyone, all my coworkers, I said, look, we lost fair and square. There's nothing I can say, right? And here's what it comes down to. I had a Dookie text me who said, Auburn, I've never seen a team shoot like that other than when Stephen Curry joined the league. Right? Since
Auburn was shooting lights out.
They shot lights out. There was a point where they made 6 threes in a row.
I was just watching it, and I was just like, yo, they're going off. On
top of that, this is not an excuse. Again, we lost fair and square. Fair and square.
No, because the thing is, say, you guys could have made excuses, say, if it was if it was close, and y'all got ran over.
This is not an excuse, but I'm just going to mention it, right? Because I think you do have to mention it. It does play a factor, right? Just like how everyone said we beat Duke both times because they didn't have Zion, when in reality we could have beaten them the third time, but we lost by 1 point. But going back to my point, Cam Johnson had 101 fever the day of the game. Nasir Little had 101 fever the day of the game. Brandon Robinson had a twisted ankle. So people were injured. Again, not an excuse because we got smoked. But you know what? I'm not going to sit here like a Dookie and say, oh, we're still the best. We lost. We weren't good enough. We lost. And
I mean, Duke can't say that. Duke lost too, so Duke can't really say that either.
To be honest with you, I'm excited for a team like Auburn because they've never been there. And I think that's the point I want to get on. Yeah. I'm excited about this Final Four because Auburn has barely ever been there. Texas Tech, I don't think has ever been there. This is the first time. Virginia hasn't been since 1980s.
Yeah.
And Michigan State, they're obviously a staple, but they also lose a lot every year. So, it's cool to see this Final Four that I don't think we've ever seen before.
Right. But does it make good for TV?
Does it make good for TV? I would argue yes. And here's why I would argue yes. I would argue yes because everybody that is watching is bought in. I'm going to be honest with you. I am super excited to watch the Final Four just because in years past, think about this. 2016, you had North Carolina, you had Villanova, 2 people who were expected to get to the Final Four. But then you had Syracuse, and I don't remember the 4th team. But Syracuse was that Cinderella run, right? In 2017, you had North Carolina and Gonzaga, 2 people who were expected to get to the Final Four. But then you had Oregon, and you had, I forgot the 4th team. No one expected Oregon to get to the Final Four, right? But in 2018, and then in 2018, you have Villanova, Michigan, and I don't forget the other 2 teams again, but Michigan, no one expected them to get to the Final Four. But in 2019, you have 2 teams, if not 3, that people said weren't going to get there. I think a lot of brackets even said Michigan State wasn't going to get there because they had to play Duke.
Right. And so I think I see it from the other side in the fact that the number 1 seed that made it is probably the one that's the least exciting. I'm going to give Virginia props to where they deserve it. When you go ahead and make history as being one of the worst teams ever, to have one of the worst results ever last year, to come back and make it to the Final Four. Major props to Virginia. I think that should be given because I've given them a lot of hate, and I think that they deserve that love that they've got. But let's be real, like they're really boring first seed, one seed.
They are. They're Virginia is, I would argue, the most boring team to watch in the country because they're not offensively like off the wall, but they play defense. That's their big thing, right? Now I'll also say this: I'm an ACC guy. As a Carolina fan, I shouldn't be rooting for Virginia, right? Because they're from the ACC. It's kind of your competitors. I'm going to go on record and say I would love to see Virginia win because Virginia hasn't been to the Final Four since the 1980s. Tony Bennett is a great human being, a great coach. He might win his first national title. This is a team, like you said, who last year, everybody across the world in the basketball world was laughing at them.
I believe this is Virginia's year. If they're going to take it any year, this has to be the year because this is like, I don't know when you're going to have to be honest, but as much as we're saying like these teams are like great Cinderella stories or whatever, like you're the only one seed that made it, and you're kind of built at this point to try and win this. Other than Michigan State, because Michigan State is Michigan State at the end of the day, but I think that they should try and really win this thing. And it's not like obviously they're all going to try and win this thing, but
so let's do this. Give me your prediction: Virginia, Auburn, who wins? And let me interrupt you for a second.
Man, that's tough because it's like, oh, man.
One second. Let me say something. Prithvi, on the IG Live, you can't say anything about UNC losing, and that's the only thing matters because you go to NC State, and NC State will never win a national title again. So the day...
No. You got to eat your words with that.
But anyways, going back to what I was saying. You might get to the Final Four of the tractor trailer
hey,
league.
That's racist. That's racist. We don't appreciate that out here.
Talk all your smack. We lost. Talk all your smack. I'm kidding.
Okay.
But going back to what I was saying. Talk all your smack, Prissy. I'm just messing with you. All right. Give me your prediction. I said Carolina. Wow. Prissy, I'm kidding, bro. Talk all the smack you want. You're right. We lost. You're right. Who do you got? Virginia or Auburn?
Man, I'm going to say Virginia. And I hope they don't disappoint me because I'm going to go off. I'm going to go off if they disappoint me. The one time I picked...
You're going Virginia?
I'm going to go Virginia.
Okay. Safe pick Virginia. But if there's one thing I've learned about this tournament, it is don't take the safe pick. I'm going to make my case for Auburn. They beat the 3 winningest programs in NCAA history. Number 1, Kansas. Number 2, North Carolina. And number 3, Kentucky. So I'm going to go on a whim and say, look, my heart-to-heart says Virginia's going to win, but I'm riding with Auburn and Bruce Pearl. I got Auburn going to the national championship game.
Better hope because you would hate to be the UNC fan that like loses to a team that doesn't go to the final as well.
No, I mean they got to the Final Four and they beat Kentucky, Kansas, and us. So I think that resume
it's impressive. What they did has been impressive, but
and to also say that they were down by I think 12 points to Kentucky in the late first half, something like that, right? So
yeah,
and they're also without OP who tore his ACL, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He dominated us, right?
Yeah.
So give me the other side: Michigan State, Texas Tech.
I'm going with Texas Tech. That's just a hard thing of like I just want to see him there. But if I'm saying realistically, Michigan State should win this.
Yes. So for the people on IG, Waleed's going Texas Tech and Virginia. I'm going Auburn and I'm going Michigan State. Like I said, since day one, I had Michigan State going to the national championship game. I had them losing to us because if you go to a school, you always have to choose your team. I'm going to go on record and say it right now. I got Cassius Winston, Tom Izzo, and company winning the national title. 10 years to the day they lost to North Carolina in the 2009 national championship game. 10-year anniversary.
That'd be a story.
So I got Michigan State.
That's the only storyline going on right now. Now that they've lost Zion, that's the only story they got going on right now. Dude, I can't even tell you how mad I am about that game. And it's not like how much I'm praised.
We'll jump into it. But do you have Texas Tech or Auburn?
Texas Tech or Auburn?
Or excuse me, Texas Tech or Virginia? Who do you have winning? Because that was your bracket.
I'm gonna say Virginia.
Virginia. So So Waleed's got UVA winning the national title, and I've got Michigan State. I'm going go green, baby, because they knocked out Duke. If you're a Carolina guy, you know that's the greatest feeling ever. And, of course, the IG people, you can't hear Waleed because it's called You Have to Listen to the Podcast episode. Now, going back, all right, so talk about this. Okay, let me ask you this. Why do you give the ball to R.J. Barrett if you're Duke? It doesn't make sense.
You know what? It's not even that. That doesn't even bother me. If you're like if it's a last shot attempt and you give it to RJ Barrett, you know what? Fine, because he had a good game. I went back and looked at after my emotions were gone. I looked at the game. RJ Barrett had a decent game, like a pretty decent game. My issue is that you gave it to him 3 times at the end of the game.
That is true. They did give it to him 3 times.
And we're talking about Zion, who scored 17 points in the second half alone.
Yeah, Zion had 17 points in the second half, but they gave R.J. Barrett the ball 3 times towards the end of the game.
And you're telling me that, oh man, so you're trying to tell me.
Doesn't make sense.
So you're telling me that you have the number 1 overall pick on your team, and that you're down by 2, not down by 3, not down by 3. Because if you're down by 3, you give it to R.J. Barrett. Fine. You're down by 2, and you're telling me all 3 of those times you don't give it to Zion Williamson. That's beyond me. I look at that at coaching, and I literally look at that at the coaching, and I've never. And you know how much I respect Coach K.
I know how much.
Like I gotta argue all the time of like Coach K's like coaching ability and all that. That is a coaching move right there. In the sense that like
big mistake.
There's no way that you can tell me that RJ Barrett deserved it all 3 times.
100%.
That's too much pressure on him too for 3 times. Even if you think he can do it, because I'm sure that RJ Barrett is more than capable of making that shot. Maybe it was just not meant to be that he didn't make it. But you're telling me that like you're down by 2, you don't give it to Zion Williamson. It's unbelievable to me.
It doesn't make sense to me. Look, I had someone in the office tell me today that the reason is that RJ Barrett is a better free throw shooter than Zion Williamson, and Zion Williamson is 50%. I looked up the stats. Zion Williamson is a 64% free throw shooter. RJ Barrett is a 66.5.
Exactly.
It's this much of a difference. And here's my thing. There is not a player, and I'm saying this, look, I said this a week ago. It's funny because I hate Zion Williamson right now because he plays for Duke. But when he plays in the league, I'm going to love this kid.
No, that's the one thing everybody talks about. Everybody's like, he's the one Duke player that everybody's like, I can't wait till he's out of a Duke uniform so that we can actually like him.
And here's the other thing. This kid, you can't hate him. He does everything the right way. He doesn't act cocky. He's a humble kid. He does his thing. He doesn't need the outside attention. He plays his heart out. He dominates, and he's a winner, right? Now, here's my point. There is not a single player, in my belief, in the country that can guard Zion Williamson. Why do you not give him the ball? Give him the opportunity to cross someone up, go to the basket like you did in the other game, and if he gets fouled, he gets fouled. If he misses one free throw, so be it. But I'd rather give the ball to Zion and tell him make it.
And I get it, like, at the very end of the game, like when RJ Barrett missed the free throws or whatever, right? Like in that possession, like when you gave it to RJ Barrett, you know what? I was fine with that last possession. It was the previous 2 that bothered me, that I was not understanding that like in the middle of like you have time, if Zion gets fouled or whatever, he might make one at least. One of the free throws. Like right. I'm talking about like in that situation, you have to give it to Zion. If we're talking about at the end of the game situation where like RJ Barrett misses it, I can live with that. But the other 2 attempts, I will not understand.
As much as people had RJ Barrett at the beginning of the season going 1 in the draft, Zion Williamson is the best player in college basketball. RJ Barrett is second, but he's not better than Zion Williamson. You have to put the ball in the hands of your best player. Simple as that. So let me ask you.
It's crazy that we talk about like this Duke team in the sense of like I think it annoys me more when I look at like other sports analysts on like ESPN, for example, right? Like we have like Jalen Rose, for example, saying that like Zion wouldn't be able to start on his Michigan Fab 5 team. And that is the most ridiculous take I've ever heard.
Zion Williamson would start on any team to ever play. The only team that I would argue maybe not, right? Because we haven't seen the full potential pan out, right? That's the other thing, is the Michael Jordan, North Carolina. And here's why. They had Sam Perkins, they had James Worthy, and they had Michael Jordan, 3 NBA Hall of Famers. I'm not saying Zion may not go down to be one of the greatest to ever play, but we don't know yet.
Okay, that's fair.
Let me ask you this. And I think this is a topic we have to talk about. And I believe it with all my heart. The one and done does not work. And here's my argument why. The last year, Duke had 4 McDonald's All-Americans, all freshmen. They got to Elite Eight. They got knocked out. This year, I said it all year. I said, this team is unbelievable, but you can back me up on this. I said they're going to lose in the Elite Eight. They had 4 McDonald's All-Americans, 4 of the best freshmen in the country, and they lost again. And this is a recurring cycle. The only team of Duke that has succeeded in the one and done is when they had Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow, and
Jahlil
Okafor, right? But otherwise, Duke has struggled. Same thing with Kentucky. The last time Kentucky won with the one and done was when they had this crazy good player by the name of Anthony Davis, if people don't know who that is, right? So last time Kansas won, I don't even remember the last time Kansas won. And what I've seen is, look who's gone back and back and back again. North Carolina has gone to 2 of the last 4 national title games. Villanova has gone to 2 of the last 4 national title games. Michigan State has gone back and back and back again. Michigan had a bunch of seniors last year. They made it to the Final Four. Look at the teams this year. Texas Tech, a bunch of veterans.
I agree. It's not. And my thing is, like, I get what you're saying, but I think it's not. I think, like, as much as we like to say that, like, winning is the most important thing, I would say it is, but, like, also to a point, right? Like, Coach K, like, these programs that take in the one and dones, they also know, like, what's best for their players. And, like, for somebody like Zion and all that, like, it's like the whole what's his name? Unfortunately, like, with Nasir Little, right? Like, we saw that, like, his draft stock was higher before he went to UNC than after he went to UNC. And I get it, like, your opinion is that, like, he'll end up top 10. And you know what? Maybe he will, because in the end he showed flashes. It's my thing is, though, that, like, it was, like, his stock was higher, though, from before. And, like,
100%.
And so I think that, like, if you're an individual player, you're kind of looking at that and you're saying that, like, well, either way, I'm not going to stay a couple of years. So, like, why waste that time? But that's maybe a good thing for UNC. Maybe they're not getting that, like, super cream of the crop talent, but they're out in the end, they're getting quality players, and you can develop that.
Right. But I got to ask this. I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this another case of, look, as much as I don't like Coach K, I have to respect who he is and what he's done. He's won 5 national titles at Duke. He's one of the greatest coaches to ever coach, right? But is this another case, and I saw a lot of this on Twitter yesterday, is this another case of Coach K is not understanding college basketball anymore? I mean, let me put it into perspective. He had a team that ESPN, that Bleacher Report, that every sports analyst, that people like you and I were saying is arguably going to be, and when it's all said and done, the greatest team to ever play the game of college basketball. And they lost to a Michigan State team who was missing 2 of its best players, right? So, again, I don't mean to be harsh on Coach K, but somebody said, Prithvi says here, Coach K is at fault, right? Is this a case of Coach K losing, his credibility and losing his...
I think this might go more on the media side of things, not understanding, like, basketball, to be honest. Because, like, remember, do you remember when, like, LeBron, Dwyane, and Chris Bosh got together, right?
Absolutely.
Automatically,
everyone said they were going to win 4 titles.
Everybody thought they were going to win automatically. In the end, that's not what happened. They lost in the finals in the end, and because, like, they were good. Chemistry. They were talented enough to go far, but not enough to win a championship.
Well, look, I think that's a different case, and I'll tell you why. That 2011 title game against the Mavericks, the Heat should have won it, but LeBron blew it. As much as I love him, LeBron is the reason.
That's what I'm saying, but, like, that was because of the amount of tension, the amount of, like, everything. It accumulates, and now we're talking about a case of now, like, a bunch of freshmen. We're having, like, a completely very new freshman team, and now you're asking a coach to take on that hype and to go, like, all the way with it. And we're talking about, like, supreme talent, like cream of the crop, but we're also talking about him going against competition that has actual chemistry, like a Michigan State team, like like the other teams that they faced.
Like, I'm
top
just going to use North Carolina, even though we didn't make it far in the tournament.
right.
They lost to us twice, right? And that comes down to we had a bunch of seniors who had the desire to beat Duke, right?
And think about it, like when Zion wasn't there for those 2 games that against UNC, they did not know what to do.
Fair, 100%.
And they if they were like the little chemistry that they had was gone. And
then if you're Coach K, why don't you stop the one and done? Because you know you're not going to win.
Because
is it the mere idea that you might win? Is that why?
No, I don't even think it's that. I think it's because of who Coach K is, right? Like you're buying into who Coach K can take you to the NBA. If you become this coach that gets a reputation of that, like, oh, like he puts you on the bench, he takes a couple of years for you to develop and all that, that might sound really good for a player who says that, like, oh, I don't need to be a one and done and I'm willing to like be really good in a couple of years and maybe make the NBA then. Those are great for those kind of players, like that UNC system. But Duke's is a system where it's like I can be really good I can get into a really good team and always almost make the tournament and go somewhat far, but just get enough to my name. Duke's name in itself will get you enough recognition in NBA scouts' eyes. So a player looks at it like that. So I think it's not even like Coach K choosing which one works.
Here's my point.
Because he's evolved. Also, we talked about like in the 3 decades of basketball, he's had to.
Here's my point. My point is this. My point is, it's not to say that you don't take the one and dones anymore. It's to say that you change your lineup. For instance, Carolina got Nasir Little, who was the number 3 rated player in the 2018 class. But as Roy Williams does, he doesn't start. He never started because he comes off the bench. Kobe White wasn't going to start, but Kobe White was so good that he overtook 7th Woods, right? This year, Cole Anthony is announcing in 2 weeks. He's the number 2 player in the country. Right now, they're saying 92% that he's going to Carolina. He's the best point guard in the country. They're actually saying Kobe White's going to stay and play with Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony is not going to have a guaranteed starting position. Armando Bacot, top pick. He's a one and done as well. He is not necessarily guaranteed a start. Precious Ochoa, who might go to Carolina, top 10 in the country. He's not guaranteed a starting position. I feel like
and that's why that for Coach K, he wants those not guaranteed to be guarantees. Because that brings money to the school, and then it brings credibility to his name that look at these top players that come to my school, and in the end, they do all right in the NBA. Like, how many times does he talk about Kyrie Irving in his interviews? How many times does he talk about, like, the Shane Battiers and, like, the Grant Hills? We're talking about, like, these are, like, some general – and that's not, like, saying that UNC doesn't have those players. I'm not saying that at all.
We have more than those, a bit more than them, but I hear what you're saying.
And I'm saying – but, like, in the Roy Williams era, just the Roy Williams era – Roy Williams hasn't had players where like
that's different.
Game-changing players.
But there's a reason for that. That's because Carolina has been under a cloud of investigation for almost a decade. Okay, and that has a big part. Go ahead. That has a big part in why Carolina doesn't get that type of player. But you are right. Roy Williams doesn't want that type of player because Roy Williams
doesn't want though. He's like, I will take you, but it's not you. But like, don't expect that I'm about to start you just right away. But for Coach K, it's different.
Right. Personally, that's the type of basketball that I love. Right, which is I don't care who you are. It's the Pat Riley mantra. When LeBron came to Miami, it wasn't you get to fly on your own private jet and your buddies fly with us. I don't care who you are. You might be the best player in the game, but you're a normal player and you're going to ride with the team. You're going to be a leader. You're going to be unselfish. Right. That's the mantra that I believe in basketball, right? It's like the Golden State Warrior mantra, right? But no, I think that's a fair point, right? Yeah. Now, let's turn here. I want to turn a little bit to the NBA.
Yeah.
LeBron James is going to miss the playoffs.
Man, this is not a good first time. This is not a good podcast for me, man. I'm just going to hit with like, no Zion, no LeBron. What is ESPN going to do?
LeBron's not making the playoffs. This is rough.
It's rough, man. What are my thoughts you're saying?
I mean, look, look, people keep saying LeBron's legacy is different. I think they're
that is the stupidest. We're talking about a dude who hasn't made. Did everybody forget like when like Kobe didn't make the playoffs? Everybody's like, oh, but he gave his like heart and soul. No man, dude. Like, see, this because it's like the thing where we're just talking about like like it becomes an excuse that like, oh, LeBron should have been out for like 6 months, but he decided to come early. Instead of people taking that as like, oh, thanks to LeBron for coming early, people are like, oh, he's making excuses. Like it's never this never winning cycle.
There's nothing. LeBron could literally win every single game and go the most have the first undefeated season in NBA history and win a title, and everyone would say he's still tough, right?
We'll be like, oh, it's just got easier.
Exactly. It's absolute BS. LeBron's legacy is still the same, that he's a top 3 greatest all-time player of all time. It's Michael, LeBron, or Magic, in my opinion. Right now, again, it doesn't change anything. In fact, for me, it shows what he's trying to do, which is he went to Miami. He learned how to win. He won 2 titles. He said, you know what? I want to stay and play with my best friends, Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade, but I have a job to do in Cleveland. I'm going to take these young guns. I'm going to take a young superstar like Kyrie. I'm going to mentor him, and I'm going to take them to win a title. He gets it done. And now he's going to do it in LA. And I will go on record and say that give him 3 years. I believe before LeBron is done in LA, he will win a title.
I agree. Like, I don't think everybody should be scared. I bet there are NBA players like genuinely scared. Like, this man is off now till October.
Yeah. And here's my other problem with the people's criticism. Oh, he's not hustling as much.
Oh,
he's not 29 years old.
He's 34, man.
He's 34. He knows his body. He's getting old.
And then people like to say that like, oh, well, like, what's his name? Kobe. He did it like. Kobe ran his career down the drain because of that. Yeah. He literally, to get them to the playoffs, he literally ran his poor Achilles to the drain.
Kobe murdered his Achilles by going so hard. And I think what LeBron knows is, hey.
LeBron knows he has 4 years. He's got 4 years if he just paces himself.
Exactly. LeBron knows that, hey, look, I didn't come into the season expecting that we'd get into the playoffs. We're not going to make the playoffs.
I think he expected to get to the playoffs. I expected to get into the playoffs. I didn't expect the injury, though. Because of the injury, like.
It derailed everything. The injury derailed everything because before the injury, they were actually going to make the playoffs. But
they were the 4th seed.
Yeah, they were the 4th seed. Now, here's the point I'm getting at, right? It's the first season. This is not a 1-year project. This is a 4+ year project. He knows that I need to save energy so that in year 2 and year 3 and year 4, I'm ready to give it my all one last time to get a ring in LA, and then I'm done. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to be the same player. Michael Jordan wasn't the same player. Kobe Bryant wasn't the same player. LeBron's not going to be the same player.
I agree, man. I couldn't have said that better myself. Could have said it better myself, man.
So I guess do you have Golden State still winning it all? Or who do you think can beat them out west?
Out west?
Yeah. Can Houston do it, or is it over? No way. Or can Denver do it?
Dang, man. See, like, for Houston, I have to see it to believe it. Like, we're talking about a team that was, like, they had 2 chances to win. And, like, as talented as James Harden is, when you, like, out of all nights to put up the historically worst 3-point shooting night of that team's life in a Game 7 against the Warriors, like, I don't know. I don't think they have enough for a 7-game series.
Who you don't think Houston has enough?
No, not for sure. Because last year was their year.
Okay.
Last year was their window to do it.
Okay.
Not this year. Because like lost Trevor Ariza, and I get their defense is now like they're playing well, really well defensively now, but it's like I don't think people understand that like when Golden State is like in the Us movie, right? They're their worst enemy. Like it's honestly Golden State versus themselves.
Okay, so but then who do you have coming out of the East? Because right now the Celtics are whooping my Heat. I know you had Toronto at the beginning of the season, so you're sticking with Toronto?
I still have Toronto.
All right. I'm going to go with you on that one. I'm going to take Toronto to edge out Milwaukee.
A lot of people are on Milwaukee's train, and I get Milwaukee's train, but like,
I just think it'll run out in the playoffs. I think when they come up against Kawhi Leonard, they'll struggle.
I think it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
I think no matter how much Giannis wills them, he needs some kind of jump shot, and I think he'll work on that in the offseason. It was like Blake Griffin, right? Like Blake Griffin was like pretty hardcore dunker. I mean, obviously Giannis is on a different level, but Blake Griffin then like transformed his game into that 3-point shooting kind of player.
Absolutely.
And if Giannis can like just get like a mid range, that's all he needs. That's the same thing I'm saying about Ben Simmons, man. If he just gets a mid range, it's over.
100%. It is. You're correct. If Ben Simmons, okay, that's a side topic, but you're right. If Ben Simmons got a shot, it would be very good.
The most interesting team.
Actually, I want to say this.
The 76ers could do it.
That's what I'm saying. I think the 76ers could do it.
They could. There's not a reason why they couldn't. They have all the pieces. They're kind of deep. They have 3-point shooting. They have a defensive player. They have they have a closer in Jimmy Butler. They have so many weapons. I don't understand why the 76ers couldn't do it.
100%. I agree. The 76ers could do it. I think it's going to come, like we said before, it's going to come down to Boston, Milwaukee, to the 76ers, and
so the same thing. If Boston just figured out their internal problems,
they could do it.
They could do it. But will they? Will they?
I think that. I mean, look, they're beating my Heat right now by like 30 points. So I got nothing.
What? Listen, because the Heat, we coming back though. It's okay. What?
The Heat are hot right now. The Heat are hot.
Exactly. We'll be straight.
The Heat are hot, bro. The Heat are hot. So we'll be fine. All right. So you and I both have Golden State and Toronto playing in the NBA Finals. I'm still gonna go on a whim and say I could see Boston doing it, but. And to answer,
they're supposed to do it. They're supposed to beat the Celtics this year.
Frisbee thinks I'm checking out myself.
This year.
Frisbee thinks I'm checking myself out. I'm just looking at his comments to see. We're about to do question and answer. So I want to answer some questions here. My hair is not on point. It's not gelled. So let's answer some questions. I'm looking back on the IG chat right here. I'm going to scroll all the way back before we do our little omen to Dwyane Wade.
Can we do an omen to your hair?
Oh, the omen to my hair. It's not gelled. It looks so bad. Okay. Kieran, explain how NC State and UNC are not on the same level. That makes no sense. Even Waleed is laughing. That makes no sense.
Listen, if NC State had the amount of academic scandals as you, then we would make it.
That makes no sense either. When was the last time NC State made the Final Four? That's all I have to say. Carolina has made the most Final Fours in NCAA history. To actually give you a statistic.
No, it doesn't.
Carolina, they have. Yes, they have. Carolina's made the most.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting confused with Roy Williams.
To answer another statistic, in the last 15 years, Carolina has made 5 Final Fours. Every other ACC program, including Duke, Virginia, NC State, all put together, has made 4 in 15 years. Carolina alone has made 5. Don't even argue. That's a moot point.
NC State go.
The next one. When's the most Allah segment? That will come soon. We're gonna do a Liverpool episode this week. When's the most Allah segment? We're gonna do a Liverpool episode this week with our boy Rohanit. Let's see what else we got here. Why is Shaqiri not getting playing time? I'm playing time. I'm going to do that for the next episode.
That's what I would like to ask you, too. I love Klopp, man, but why doesn't he get time?
Look, let's leave that for the next episode. 2-1 Liverpool. Okay, fine, I'll answer it. Shaqiri is not getting time because I think what's happened is that maybe he's not doing as well in training right now. And Klopp is going to play the player that he feels has played best in training. And is playing in game. Well. Huh?
In game, Shaqiri has been on point.
But you say that after he played 5 games, but there have also been games where Shaqiri struggled. I think my whole argument, Klopp knows what he's doing. Without Klopp, we wouldn't be second in the league and 2 points off of Man City. So let's leave Klopp unclose to who he is. Will Liverpool stay ahead?
Who's asking the soccer question?
Prithvi and Anurag, Prithvi's buddy from State. Anurag's a big Liverpool fan like you and I. I'm going to leave the question about will Liverpool stay ahead for the next episode that we're going to film later this week.
Yes, sir.
All right. We don't have any other questions, I don't think. Anurag, we're definitely going to answer that question very soon on the next episode, I promise. So I want to close this Ball Talk episode with a kind of omen, and I don't know why I keep saying omen, but kind of Yeah, an homage to. I mean, he's not dead; he's alive. But an homage to what I will argue one of the greatest players to ever play the game. I don't even think it's a debate. My guy, Mr. Dwyane Wade. So Waleed, I want to get your thoughts.
Man,
What do you have to say? Give me your heart. Pour your heart out to the listeners about Dwyane Wade. We got to tag him on this one. I'm gonna make a sound bit.
There's only a few more games, right? Like there's only
7 games left. The last game.
How many games are the Heat outside the playoffs or in the playoffs?
They are in the playoffs right now by a game and a half. Or
for God's sake, I hope they don't choke that away.
And also, the last game of the season is against guess who?
Oh God.
Your boy D'Lo of the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh no, D'Lo!
Come up to New York. We'll go watch the Heat play the Nets.
What is it?
It's April 10th. It's a Wednesday night. You can come explore New York, stay at my apartment for that week.
We'll so tempted.
We'll go to the Nets on Wednesday night, next Wednesday. We'll go to the Nets game. We'll see Dwyane Wade for his last ever final regular season.
So tempted.
Bro, you can stay at my apartment for as long as you want.
I'll think about it. Dang, man, that sounds so tempting, though.
Seriously, do it. We'll have a blast.
Okay, but my homage to Dwyane career, man. In my opinion, for sure, top 5 shooting guard. For sure.
Not top 5. Come on, top 3.
Yes. Top 3. So, see, I want to say top 3, right? No. It's just I think about how many guards there are. And I'm just like, ooh. But I will say at least top 5 for sure. Top 3, I want to say, like, because all I can think of is MJ, Kobe, then him. There's only a couple of people I think maybe. But also, like the whole point guard, shooting guard gets, like, switched around. So that's why.
So let me ask you, well, come on, you got to give me more. Give me some, some spice.
This dude, so, like, he's the reason why I'm a fan of Miami, because I always remember that LeBron was always my favorite player because he was the first player I saw, like, outside of the Kobe and Kobe versus Shaq game. That was the first game I had seen in the NBA. Was like Shaquille O'Neal was on the Phoenix Suns and Kobe Bryant was on the Lakers, and they were playing it out. That was the first NBA game I watched. I wasn't a fan of neither one of them, to be honest, like that. Then I watched the game, the playoffs, where LeBron hit this half-court shot, and I was like, you know what, that dude's dope. I'm gonna get him. So then
you're talking about LeBron, or you're talking about Dwyane Wade?
I'm watching LeBron. Okay. So then, when the Heat became my favorite team, is when I was watching the Heat versus the Cavaliers, and I see LeBron get blocked or miss a dunk. It was one of the two. I can't even remember. And I see D Wade come in the other end and just yam it on Varejao like nobody's business.
I remember that. Dwyane Wade jammed it on Anderson Varejao.
That's when I looked back. That's when I researched about the Miami Heat, about the organization, about Pat Riley, about D Wade, about their championship, how Shaq was on his team, how all these other players respected D Wade for he was, and that's how he was friends with LeBron. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna be a Miami Heat fan. So he was that sole reason. And now we go into, like, my favorite years of basketball when I was watching LeBron join the Miami Heat, which was crazy because I had never thought that was going to happen.
2010 to 2014 was the greatest years of basketball.
That was going to happen because I was just like, oh, he's going for sure Chicago or the Lakers or the Knicks. I never imagined him going to the Miami Heat. Right. And so when I was actually in Pakistan when I heard the news, and then I was like, I remember as much as I love LeBron, I thought that he could get so much knowledge from D Wade because of his experience, because of their friendship, because of everything. And now outside of, like, there are times that, like, I remember I was even critical, I think, of, like, their championship runs where I felt like D Wade wasn't enough. But then I realized that outside of a basketball perspective, that D Wade's influence on, like, the culture of basketball itself,
100%.
Insane. And, like,
yeah, absolutely.
He did. And what I love about D Wade so much is about, like, his caring about his sons. His whole entire thing with, like, how much he cares about his sons, how his interaction with them
Dwyane and Zaire Wade.
His interaction with them are, like, genuine and he seems like a great father, and
yeah,
and
absolutely.
And it's like that kind of role model, because I bet there are people who come into the NBA who already look up to D Wade as a basketball figure, but then know that he's so much more. And that's when like I picked not his documentary, his biography. And then I read about his struggles early on in Chicago and all these kind of
What he's been
adversities that he
through.
faced with his previous marriage and everything.
Yeah.
And you see that like this man, like he went through all that and he was still so dedicated to the craft of basketball.
And he turned out to be one of the greatest players of all time.
And like there's like I'm only talking about his experiences because there's only so much I can like say in terms of how he's made me feel, because it's like,
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it says a lot that you, as someone who's not from Miami, says something like this, right? I just want to say one thing. Rohan had said Wade is overrated. You are just pissing me off. But look, let me give you, and this is, I want this to be a poignant moment. Dwyane Wade is the player that gave me the love for basketball. And the backstory I give is the first team that I ever supported was the Los Angeles Lakers. When I was a little kid, my dad was a big Lakers fan when they had Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher, Rick Fox. And I remember being a 5-year-old kid, and my dad used to wear this Lakers jumpsuit. It was yellow from top to bottom, and he bought me one. He bought me a kid's Lakers jumpsuit, and I remember having that. And then in 2003, the Miami Heat draft a player named Dwyane Wade out of Robbins, Illinois. You're asking how I know that? Because he's my favorite player of all time. They draft this kid named Dwyane Wade out of Robbins, Illinois, who played for Marquette and took Marquette to the Final Four, but no one talked about him. Everyone was talking about LeBron. Everyone was talking about, Carmelo Anthony. Everybody was talking about Chris Bosh. And by luck of fortune, he dropped to number 5. And the Heat were actually going to take Chris Bosh.
Yeah.
So Chris Bosh went number 4 to Toronto. And Pat Riley took a shot on this kid named, again, I'm going to keep reiterating it, Dwyane Wade, not from Chicago, from Robbins, Illinois, which is obviously in Chicago. But and this was a kid who, when you got drafted, people in Miami weren't like, oh man, Dwyane Wade, he's the future. No one had that expectation. And then I remember the moment that I fell in love with him. And I think it was the 2004 or 2005. I think it was 2004. Dwyane Wade made a buzzer beater. And that's when we still had Brian Grant and other players like that. He made a buzzer beater. And I remember from that day onwards, every kid in Miami, and as someone who was born in Miami, I was born in Pembroke Pines, Florida, grew up on Biscayne Boulevard, which is 10 minutes from South Beach, grew up going to Heat games. I remember my cousin's sister took me to a Heat game on my birthday. I think it was maybe my 7th birthday. I think in 2003 or my 8th birthday, she surprised me and took me to the Heat game. But my dad and I used to go to Heat games all the time. And I would go not because of Shaquille O'Neal. As much as I love Shaquille O'Neal in 2006, it was the whole Dwyane Wade, man. And it was Dwyane Wade to the point where every Miami kid had a Dwyane Wade jersey. I remember at one point, I had 4 Dwyane Wade jerseys. I had 4. I kid you not, 4 Dwyane Wade jerseys.
You're rolling that cash, boy.
No, it was gifts. People giving birthday gifts, and they just kept kind of piling up. And he made every kid in Miami dream. And I remember going out in the backyard, living in Cooper City, Florida, and my best friend at the time, Hassan Ismail, who also loved to play ball, we used to idolize one player and one player only. It wasn't Kobe Bryant. It wasn't LeBron James. It wasn't Carmelo Anthony. It wasn't Chris Bosh, Chris Paul. It was Dwyane Wade. I remember going outside and we would do 3, 2, 1, Dwyane Wade from the elbow. Or we'd recreate the pack on Amari Stoudemire where he took a shot from half court. I remember watching that live with my boy Hassan, and we both lost our mind. I also remember in 2006 when the Heat won the title, we ran out at midnight. We beat the Mavericks. It was like 11:50 p.m. We ran out in our cul-de-sac and literally screamed from the top of our lungs. 2006, we were 10 years old, and it was because of Dwyane Wade. So Dwyane Wade, to me, is that player that gave me my love for basketball. He may not be the greatest player of all time. He is the third greatest shooting guard of all time. He's a top 20 greatest player of all time without a doubt. And like you said, more than that, he's a cultural icon. He changed the game, and he changed the way people viewed the game, because Dwyane Wade in his prime gave every ounce of his energy on the court, right? So he taught me a lot about life, to dream big and to go after it. And I've said this, and I'll say this for a sound bit. The day we interview Dwyane Wade for Ball Talk will be the greatest day of my life, because he is the one person. I mean, there's a few people that I'd like to meet someday, but he is, to me, the most influential figure that I've ever, celebrity-wise, that I've ever had in my life as a Miami kid. So sorry
wow.
emotional there. But Dwyane Wade is my favorite player of all time, and I think one of the greatest players to ever play, top 20, if not top 15. With that, Waleed, do you have anything to say to the Ball Talk folk?
Man, thank you for listening again. 3 straight weeks, baby.
3 straight weeks. Can we keep it going?
Let's keep it going.
What are you doing Wednesday night?
Wednesday night? I feel like I do have something, but I might not. Well, I'll let you know.
Okay, maybe we'll do a soccer episode with Rohannes.
Oh, wow.
Is Liverpool going to win the title? Look,
God.
I want to thank you guys. Do you even know that we beat Tottenham yesterday?
Yes, I do. 2-1. Get out my face with that. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me like I don't know what I'm saying.
All right. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This has been a long episode. Sorry we ended on an emotional note. I have a lot of love in my heart for Dwyane Wade, but I want to thank you all for tuning in.
I have a lot of love for you, Kieran.
Wow. I have a lot of love for you, too. I do want to tell everyone on Ball Talk that my boy Waleed is moving to Japan, guys. This is going to become tough.
Stop.
This is going to become tough. He's going to make me cry, but
don't do that.
For real talk, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been an amazing episode. We're going to try to get another episode up this week. And please make sure to follow us on Instagram at BallTalkHW, or at Kieran Gawala, or at my name is _Waleed. And stay in touch with us, comment, review. And with that, I say go Heat, and we out.
Peace.
Yeah. Miami. South Beach, bringing the heat. Can y'all feel that?